The alien mother held her child close as their failing ship trembled violently. The controls sparked, warning lights flashing and unreadable symbols, but she didn't need to understand the language. She could feel the end closing in. Her child, fragile and pale, barely clung to consciousness, their faint breathing matching the flickering rhythm of the ship's failing systems. She whispered soft, melodic reassurances in her native tongue, a sound meant more to comfort herself than her unconscious offspring. Their escape from their war-torn home had been fraught with danger, but now, with salvation just out of reach, despair gripped her. The ship broke through an alien planet's atmosphere, the temperature rising unbearably in the cabin. She tried to steady it, directing the vessel toward what appeared to be solid ground. With a deafening crash, the ship plowed into a remote area, the impact jarring her as sharp fragments of metal and machinery rained around them. Pain surged through her body, but her focus remained on her child. Weak as she was, she unfastened herself and crawled to the pod where her child lay. The protective casing had held, but the child's condition was worsening. The world outside was alien. Trees swayed gently, the ground teeming with life entirely unfamiliar to her. The air was breathable but carried a harsh chill. She wrapped her frail frame around her child as she stumbled out of the wreckage seeking shelter. Her own injuries sapped her strength, and every step felt heavier. This planet might be their refuge, but it could also be their grave. The forest remained eerily quiet, save for the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant call of animals. She collapsed near a cluster of tall trees, the soft ground beneath her cushioning the fall. Her child remained unresponsive, and for the first time since their journey began, her resolve wavered. She raised her head to the sky, her luminous eyes reflecting the stars, and let out a silent plea, one born of desperation and a dwindling hope. The humans arrived shortly after. Their vehicle, a sturdy, rugged machine, came to a stop a few hundred meters from the crash site. The group approached cautiously, their voices low but urgent. They had seen the bright streak across the sky and the smoke rising from the forest, signs of something unusual. Clad in utilitarian clothing, they carried equipment meant for rescue and survival. The leader of the group, a tall figure with sharp, commanding features, gestured for silence as they neared the wreckage. The first sight of the alien mother and child brought them to a halt. The glow of her translucent skin and the ethereal presence of her unconscious child left no doubt. These beings were not of this world. The humans exchanged looks of awe, fear, and uncertainty. Weapons were drawn instinctively, but none pointed them directly at the vulnerable figures before them. The alien mother, sensing their approach, gathered what strength she had left and shifted her body protectively over her child. Her gestures were slow and deliberate, her large, expressive eyes meeting theirs. Though her form and language were alien, her intent was unmistakable. She was not a threat. The humans lowered their weapons, the tension easing as empathy replaced fear. One of the humans stepped forward, a younger member of the group with a kind face and steady hands. She knelt, setting down a medical kit, and spoke softly, her tone soothing. The alien mother tilted her head, her luminous eyes narrowing as she tried to make sense of the sounds. With deliberate care, the human extended a hand, palm open, a universal gesture of peace. After a long, agonizing pause, the alien mother shifted slightly, revealing the still form of her child. The human gasped softly and motioned for the others to bring supplies. The group worked quickly. While two members checked the crash site for potential hazards, the young medic and another human focused on stabilizing the child. The alien's physiology presented challenges. What appeared to be injuries or signs of distress were beyond their understanding, but the mother's faint nods and subtle expressions offered guidance. They used what tools they could, applying pressure to what they assumed were wounds and carefully administering water to hydrate the child. The alien mother, though weak, leaned forward to watch their every move, her trust tenuous but growing. One of the older humans spoke up, his voice rough with concern. "We need to decide what we're doing here. This isn't a normal rescue. We've got to call someone." "Call who?" the young medic snapped, her voice rising slightly. "The government? The military? You think they'll help? Look at them, they need us. Right now." The leader of the group stepped in, his voice calm but firm. She's right. Whatever this is, they're in trouble. We help them first. We figure out the rest later. The alien mother, though unable to understand their words, seemed to sense the shift in energy. Her tense body relaxed marginally, and her luminous gaze lingered on the humans with a flicker of hope. One of the group handed her a blanket, and though the texture was unfamiliar, she clutched it around herself and her child gratefully. As the group prepared to move the aliens to a safer location, the leader glanced back at the wreckage. This was no ordinary encounter, and whatever decisions they made now would have far-reaching consequences. Yet, as he looked at the mother and her fragile child, the choice seemed clear. They would help. They had to. The humans moved quickly, carrying the alien mother and her child to a hidden spot deeper within the forest. They chose a small clearing surrounded by dense trees, shielded from view. It was makeshift, but it would provide temporary safety. The mother's injuries were severe, but her focus never wavered from her child. The humans worked with quiet urgency, setting up what supplies they had. A portable medical kit, blankets, and a lantern were all they could muster in such a remote location. The young medic knelt by the child, her face set with determination. The alien's translucent skin and faint, bioluminescent veins glowed softly under the light, making every feature both alien and fragile. She gently pressed her stethoscope-like device to what she assumed was the chest, but no heartbeat registered. The alien mother reached out weakly, touching the medic's wrist. Their eyes met. Though no words were exchanged, the urgency was clear. The humans improvised. One member rigged a device to deliver oxygen, unsure if the atmosphere here was compatible with the alien's needs. Another prepared an IV drip with water and electrolytes, though they weren't certain it would work. The alien mother gestured faintly toward a hidden compartment in her garment, revealing a vial of shimmering liquid. A human scientist, likely an engineer or biologist by trade, studied the vial, understanding that it was critical to the child's survival. Can we mix this with the drip? The medic asked, her voice tense. We don't know what it is. It could kill them, the scientist replied, frowning. And if we don't use it? The medic pressed. The scientist hesitated. Then they might die anyway. The alien mother made a faint noise, her glowing eyes fixed on the vial. The gesture was clear. It was meant to help. The medic nodded and carefully added the liquid to the IV. Moments passed in silence, every second stretching unbearably. Then, the child's breathing steadied, faint but rhythmic. A collective sigh of relief swept through the group. As the humans worked, they began to notice subtle changes in the mother's demeanor. Though weak and visibly pained, she observed them closely, her luminous eyes tracking their every movement. When they offered her water, she hesitated before drinking, her gaze filled with curiosity and caution. Her actions revealed an intelligence that was undeniable, and slowly, trust began to build between the species. The humans tried communicating through simple gestures. One of them held up a bottle of water, then pointed to themselves and drank before offering it to her. She mirrored the gesture, a flicker of understanding crossing her face. Another human pointed to themselves and said their names slowly. The alien mother tilted her head, then placed a hand on her chest, emitting a soft, melodic sound. It was unclear if it was her name or simply an acknowledgement, but it was a breakthrough nonetheless. As the night deepened, the humans worked in shifts. Some kept watch, wary of potential dangers, wild animals, local authorities, or worse. Others remained focused on stabilizing the child. The alien mother, despite her frailty, reached out to the humans with her limited strength. At one point, she activated a small device embedded in her wrist, projecting a faint hologram. It displayed what appeared to be a star chart, dotted with strange symbols. The humans gathered around, their eyes wide with amazement. Though they couldn't decipher it, they understood its significance. It was a map, perhaps a path to safety or a call for help. The alien mother used the hologram to tell fragments of her story. Through gestures and expressions, she conveyed the destruction of her home, the chaos that forced her to flee, and the loss of everything she once knew. The humans, though unable to grasp the specifics, felt the weight of her grief and desperation. One human, moved by the tale, placed a hand over their heart and nodded, a silent promise to help. But their compassion came at a cost. The crash site, still smoldering in the distance, had likely attracted attention. The group heard the faint sound of helicopters in the distance, followed by the rumble of vehicles. The leader of the group tensed, gesturing for everyone to stay quiet. They had been operating under the radar, but it was clear that someone, perhaps the military or an investigative team, was closing in. "We can't stay here," the leader whispered. "They'll find us." "And do what?" another human shot back. "Take them? Experiment on them? We can't let that happen." The alien mother, though visibly drained, seemed to sense the tension. She pressed a hand to her chest and emitted a soft hum. The sound resonated deeply, a calming melody that seemed to ease the humans' nerves. It wasn't a solution, but it was a reminder of what they were fighting for, a mother and child on the brink of death, relying on their compassion and ingenuity. With no time to waste, the humans devised a plan. They would move the aliens to an even more remote location, a hidden cave system they had passed earlier. It was risky, but it was the only option. As they prepared to leave, the child stirred faintly for the first time. The medic crouched beside them, her voice soft and encouraging. The alien mother reached out weakly, her glowing fingers brushing against her child's cheek. Though the moment was brief, it was enough to renew the group's resolve. Carrying their supplies and the fragile aliens, the humans set off into the night. The journey was fraught with danger, treacherous terrain, the constant threat of discovery, and the looming fear that their efforts might still fail. Yet, despite the odds, they pressed on, driven by a shared purpose that transcended species and language. By the time they reached the cave, exhaustion had taken its toll, but there was no time to rest. The medic checked the child's vitals, confirming they were stable for now. The leader of the group stood at the entrance, keeping watch. Though they had bought themselves time, they knew it wouldn't last. Still, as they settled in for the night, there was a quiet sense of accomplishment. Against all odds, they had kept the aliens alive, and in doing so, they had found something extraordinary within themselves. The cave was quiet, save for the soft, rhythmic hum of the alien mother's breathing and the faint sounds of the humans working. The child had stabilized, but the humans knew their time was running out. Outside, the distant hum of helicopters and the occasional flash of searchlights painted an ominous picture. The group worked tirelessly, their bond with the alien mother and her child deepening with every passing moment. The young medic checked the child's vitals again, her hands steady despite her exhaustion. The translucent glow of the alien's skin was slightly stronger now, a sign that the improvised treatment was working. The alien mother, though still weak, turned her luminous gaze toward the medic. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and lightly touched the medic's arm. It was a gesture of gratitude, simple but profound. The medic smiled faintly and nodded, her resolve renewed. "We need a way to get them off this planet," the leader said, his voice low but urgent. "They can't stay here. If the military finds them..." He didn't finish the thought. The group exchanged uneasy glances. The implications were clear: capture, experimentation, perhaps even death. They had come too far to let that happen. The alien mother seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. With a trembling hand, she activated the small holographic device again. This time, the star map projected a more detailed image, showing a pulsating signal moving toward a specific point in the sky. The humans watched in awe as the mother pointed to the signal, then to herself and her child. The message was clear: help was on the way, but it wasn't here yet. "How long do you think we have?" one of the humans asked. "Not long enough," the leader replied grimly. "We need to buy them more time." The group sprang into action, fortifying the cave's entrance and devising plans to mislead anyone tracking them. One member rigged a decoy beacon using equipment from the crash site, while another set up a perimeter with makeshift alarms to detect approaching intruders. Despite their fear and exhaustion, the humans worked with a unity born of necessity and compassion. Inside the cave, the alien mother grew weaker. Her glowing skin dimmed, and her breaths became labored. The medic crouched beside her, gently pressing a damp cloth to her forehead. The mother gestured weakly toward her child, her expression pleading. She didn't need to speak for the medic to understand. Her child was the priority, no matter what happened to her. "You're not going anywhere," the medic whispered, her voice trembling. "We'll save both of you." The child stirred again, their bioluminescent veins pulsing faintly. It was a small sign of life, but it gave the humans hope. The alien mother, seeing her child's improvement, let out a soft, melodic sound, a mixture of relief and sorrow. The medic realized then that the mother wasn't just preparing to let go, she was willing to sacrifice herself to ensure her child's survival. Outside the cave, the distant searchlights grew closer. The humans braced themselves, their makeshift alarms crackling softly as movement was detected nearby. The leader of the group motioned for silence, his eyes scanning the dark forest. The tension was palpable. They knew they couldn't hold off a full-scale search, but they were determined to try. Inside, the alien mother summoned the last of her strength. She activated her holographic device one final time, adjusting the settings with shaking fingers. The star map shifted, focusing on a single, glowing point. The humans watched in awe as the beacon's signal intensified. The medic glanced at the leader, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. "Is that? It has to be her signal for rescue," the leader said. "We just need to hold on until they arrive." Minutes felt like hours as the humans prepared for the worst. The decoy beacon had bought them some time, drawing search teams away from the cave, but it wouldn't last. The leader and another human stood at the cave's entrance, ready to defend their position if necessary. Inside, the medic stayed by the mother and child, her heart pounding. Suddenly, a low, resonant hum filled the air. The humans froze, their eyes darting to the sky. Through the gaps in the trees, a massive alien craft appeared, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. The ship descended with an otherworldly grace, its presence both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The humans exchanged glances, their fear mingling with relief. Help had arrived. The alien mother, sensing the ship's presence, let out a faint sound. Her luminous eyes met the medic's, and she gestured toward her child one last time. The medic understood. With tears in her eyes, she gently lifted the child and carried them toward the ship's landing zone. The other humans followed, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and determination. As the alien craft extended a ramp, a figure emerged, another alien, similar in appearance to the mother but radiating strength and authority. They moved with purpose, their gaze scanning the humans briefly before focusing on the child. The medic hesitated, then stepped forward, offering the child. The alien accepted them with a nod of gratitude, their luminous eyes meeting hers in silent acknowledgement. The alien mother, too weak to move, watched from the cave. Her gaze lingered on her child as they were carried aboard the ship. The humans turned to her, their expressions heavy with emotion. The leader knelt beside her, his voice soft. "They're safe now. You did it." The mother's glowing eyes dimmed further, but a faint smile touched her lips. She raised a hand weakly, placing it over her chest in a gesture of thanks. The humans mirrored the gesture, their faces solemn. As the ship prepared to leave, the alien mother's light faded completely. The humans watched in silence as the craft descended, its engines emitting a deep, resonant hum. The ship disappeared into the night sky, leaving behind only the quiet of the forest and the humans who had given everything to save a mother and child they barely understood. The group stood in the clearing for a long moment, their emotions a mix of sadness and pride. The leader finally broke the silence. "We did the right thing," he said. The medic nodded, wiping her eyes. "They'll remember us." And with that, the humans gathered their belongings and began their journey back, forever changed by the encounter. Though the aliens were gone, the memory of their luminous eyes and the quiet courage of a mother fighting for her child would remain, a testament to the resilience and compassion that made humanity truly extraordinary.